Hi, welcome to the Junot Files. I'm Jim Juno. I'm the host, and this is where we talk about movies, television, and everything in between. And I have with me tonight a very special guest. You know him if you've watched Turner Classic Movies or in the past, Entertainment Tonight, or caught his movie reviews, and you probably read some of his other books. Leonard Maltin, welcome to the Junot Files.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Now, let me ask you, where are you coming from tonight? Los Angeles?
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. Okay, great. Well, I tell you what, it's an honor and a pleasure having you here tonight. Your new book is called Starstruck. It's the story of your life. You've not written about your life before. Why now? Oh,
Well,
you've heard Jules the movie hound making a little noise there. Okay.
we have our movie hounds right here, so they may make an audio appearance of their own later on. Why now? Well, in part, the pandemic.
That's right.
I, I work at home, and I'm a writer. So I get up in the morning and walk down the hallway to my office, and write. Sometimes I'm writing answers to emails. Sometimes it's more, you know, uh, exalted material. But I I've reached an age when I think I am in a reflective state of mind, and I've had some health issues that tend to put one in that frame of mind as well.
Exactly.
And the folks who published my last book, Hooked on Hollywood, expressed interest in this. And there are very few things I can say I'm grateful to the pandemic for, but in this case, it worked out really well because it gave me a purpose. It gave me a reason to get out of bed in the morning, and it was a very interesting experience. Retracing your own steps in life.
That is something which really struck me when I was reading your book. You really had one of the most fascinating lives I've ever read about, and not just because of your career as a movie critic or a movie historian or anything like that, but merely the people you have met in your life
Mm-hmm.
that is just fascinating. Do you have a
Well,
favorite? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, favorite. Well, they're all favorites. I mean, uh, I was a letter writer when I was a kid, and I wrote to people I admired and got some wonderful responses. Not everybody answered, but I got some pretty special uh, responses to my initial query, or just sometimes I just wrote and asked for an autograph photo. But my first ambition was to be a cartoonist, not an animator, but like a magazine cartoonist. And there are hardly any magazines at all anymore.
Yes, they're all online now. Yeah.
The last two holdouts for cartoons were, of course, famously the New Yorker. Still prints a generous number of panel cartoons every week, and Playboy still did that because Hugh Hefner was an amateur cartoonist, and that was his first pursuit. And so he had a lifelong fondness for and appreciation for cartoons. But when I was 11 or 12, there were a number of magazines, and in fact, my local library had a book called "Drawing and Selling Cartoons." It was a real guidebook, handbook for somebody like me who wanted to enter this field, despite a marked lack of talent. I had the interest, the ambition, but I needed somebody to take me by the hand and give me useful advice. So anyway, this is a very long-winded way of saying I wrote to Charles M. Schulz, and I sent him some samples of my cartoons. And he took the time to answer me and to give me advice on Peanut stationery and enclosed a daily original.
Oh, wow.
Signed daily Peanuts original, which of course is still on my wall here. And 30 years later, I got to meet him. I got hired, wonderful circle of life moment. I got hired by United Media, which had been called the United Feature Syndicate, to go up to Santa Rosa, California, and to interview him to create a video that would accompany a museum tour for Peanuts, I think 35th anniversary. Mm-hmm. Don't hold me to that, but I think it was the 35th anniversary. And so as we were, as they were setting the cameras and tweaking the lights, I told him what I just told you, because he would have no reason to, remember my name. And he jumped out of his chair and said, well, we got to get you something more current than that. And he went and started rifling through the Sunday pages of recent vintage, found one that he liked, and signed it to my wife and me. Only this one he signed Sparky.
Oh, wow.
His nickname to all friends and close family. Well, so, if you don't count that a special day, you're dead from the neck up.
Yes, indeed.
But it's not the only special day like that. I've had great good fortune.
Well, one of the first ones in your book you mentioned, I believe it was when you were a kid, or much younger, I'll say it that way, was Buster Keaton.
Yes, I was 13 years old, and I can actually date that because the impetus for that event happening was a story in the New York Times, and I have the clipping. So I know exactly when. I believe it was August of 1964. I lived in the suburbs of New York, in Teaneck, New Jersey, and my best friend and I had made up to go to the city for the day. We used to go to used bookstores and revival theaters, and we had a circuit. And before we left to catch the bus over the George Washington Bridge, my parents got the New York Times delivered every day, and I was rifling through it and found this article that Buster Keaton was making a film in downtown Manhattan in, this is an exact quote, alongside a dilapidated warehouse in the shadow of the Brooklyn Bridge.
Oh, wow.
And I said to Lewis, this is our shot. This is our once in a lifetime opportunity. Well, let's try to figure out where that is. And I had just bought a couple of stills at a local used bookstore, including one that I couldn't identify. So I put it in a manila envelope and took it along. And that was my icebreaker. We took the subway down to Canal Street. When we got to the surface, there were like empty lots. They just bulldozed some buildings. And about 2-3 blocks away, we saw a couple of reflectors and lights and walked in that direction. And there were no security people around. There was really, if you didn't know they were making a film, you wouldn't know they were making a film, except for those props that were the giveaway. And they're sitting in the back seat of a car with his pork pie hat next to him on the seat, reading a newspaper, was Buster Keaton. It was unbelievable. And I kind of poked my head in the rear window and I said, Mr. Keaton? He said, yeah. I said, I found this still and I don't know what film it's from. Could you possibly identify it for me? And he took it and he said, oh yeah, it's parlor, bedroom, and bath. He said, but that's not the gal I did the scene with. Maybe this was a rehearsal. I said, would you mind signing it? No, he had a ballpoint pen and he signed it. And wow, that was my entree and exit. I mean, I didn't know how to keep up a conversation at that moment with a guy who obviously was not outgoing, if he didn't know you already. Mm-hmm. And but I got to introduce my friend Lewis, and we had our moment with Buster Keaton.
See, your career has spanned, excuse me, from the from print to radio to TV, and now you're online with leonardmaltin.com. And it seems like, well, like me, I seem to be trying to reinvent myself from radio days up to now. And it goes from mine goes from radio to internet. But do you see that? Do you see that in your career where you went from one media to another?
Well, I have a very specific answer for that, which is the man who gave me my job at Entertainment Tonight, which brought me into the world of television. I'd been a freelance writer up to then. And he gave me my break in television. And then a couple of years later, after he moved on from Entertainment Tonight, he was hired to be the editor-in-chief of a new website called Prodigy.
I remember that. Mm-hmm.
It was co-owned by IBM and RCA, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And he hired me to write a column. So he dragged me into the online world, about which I knew nothing. I knew less than nothing. And I'm not a Luddite. I just I'm a low-tech person in a high-tech world. But Prodigy had certain requirements. Every paragraph had to be 11 lines long, I think.
Wow.
That's how much they could reveal. How much type they could show it in a window. So an article had to be broken down into chunks, 11-line chunks. but anyway, and I started getting people writing to me, and the nuts came out of the woodwork immediately.
Oh yeah,
immediately. And which seems to be a hallmark of each new medium that comes along or platform. In the old days, I used to get, the first time I got published, my first book came out, I started getting wacky mail from people, and I used to say, it's a shame these people can afford a postage stamp. But now, of course, anybody can go to the public library and, send
or have a cell phone
email. That's right.
Now in your book, what I loved about reading your book was I was able to skip around, because I was like, oh wait a minute, he met Betty Davis, and I want to read about that, and and all that. And during the glamour days of course they were on the tail end of their careers, I would imagine, by the time you saw them, but They still had all that legend behind them. Did anyone make you nervous?
Oh, I get nervous all the time.
Hey, guess what? A scam likely. Hey. Good old scam. I wonder whatever became of him. Hey, Do you get nervous?
I have a new friend, by the way. My new friend is named Spam Risk. I hear from him a lot.
I hear from Scam Likely every so often. Yeah.
I do get nervous, but the trick is to work through that and not let on that I'm nervous. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't.
I remember you talk about Thank Goodness for TCM, Turner Classic Movies, in your book. Now, I can remember the time when Ted Turner bought, I believe it was the MGM library.
Mm-hmm.
And he got crucified in whatever media was around at that time, newspapers, TV, whatever, because they said he's going to colorize all these old movies and ruin them and everything, but he really has done a service with Turner Classic Movies, hasn't he?
Absolutely. He got sold on colorization for a while, and then the moment passed. Mm-hmm. Thank goodness.
Yes.
And he set up this new channel, and the people he deputized to do the heavy lifting for all that had no use for colorization, and Mr. Turner was on to the next thing. So it all worked out in the end.
Tell me how you landed at TCM.
Well, I tried to get hired by the Turner organization before TCM. When they did TNT. TNT was their first new network. Well, I guess WTBS was their entree into broadcast.
Channel 17.
Right, out of Atlanta. So it was on a satellite, what they used to call a super station.
Yes, that's right. There was WGN and WTBS.
Right. I don't think I've used that word in years or thought about it in years, but you're unlocking one little cavern in my brain. WTBS was this super station, and then he started an offshoot called TNT. And that's where he started airing the old MGM and Warner Brothers movies that he bought. And they were doing 2-hour specials. Sharon Stone presents Jean Harlow.
Right.
People, current stars paying tribute to vintage stars. And I went and had a meeting with one of their program executives, and I didn't know how to make this happen. I said, what I wanted to say was, just hire me.
Yeah.
Just hire me and let me run loose in your vault, your proverbial vault, and I'll come back with good stuff that's people want to see. And this executive did not see it that way.
And no, we're not going to let you do that. No.
no, that's not on our agenda. But when TCM came along, Robert Osborne, they did a great job of choosing Robert Osborne.
Fantastic.
Lovely guy, who he was the real thing. I mean, he really, really loved and cared about movie history and about Hollywood, and had a wide circle of friends and acquaintances. Then they decided they put together their first film festival in Hollywood, TCM Classic Film Festival. And there was only one problem. Robert Osborne couldn't be in two places at one time. And I think that's how I got hired to host some of those events. And I know that's how I got hired to host some of those events, and had a great, great time. I'm not the only one who helped, fill in for him at that festival. Very, very tight schedule, very dense schedule, spread over a mere 3.5-4 days. So I think that's the first thing I did for them. And then they hinted that maybe there was some stuff I could do on air as well. And that initially turned out to be introducing Walt Disney movies. They contracted for access to the Disney library for about 4 years. And I, having built an association with Disney, writing a book and then producing and hosting a series of DVDs called The Walt Disney Treasures, was my entree to doing the same thing on TCM for about 4 years, until Disney said, oh, you know what, we're going to start our own channel. So goodbye now.
We know where the money is. Hey,
Yeah. So there was no bad blood or anything. It's just that the deal expired. And, so now I make occasional appearances. I think in acting terms, you say I have a recurring role.
You're a special guest star.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, everybody everybody asks me what my favorite movie is when I'm talking movies, but I'm going to
Mhm.
ask you, what's your favorite movie?
Casablanca.
Casablanca. I saw them. I was misinformed. Pillow in back of you there.
Yes, that's from the late and still lamented Warner Brothers store.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They had a chain of stores like the Disney store,
Mm-hmm.
and they, as I said, and then they had a catalog as well. I was their best customer, I reckon. And this was on closeout, and it's my favorite line of dialogue from Casablanca. I was misinformed.
Yes, I came to Casablanca for the waters, but we're in the desert. Now, let me ask you, your favorite movie is Casablanca. What is your least favorite movie?
Well, I don't know that I have an actual least favorite movie. The movie I often cite as the worst movie I've ever seen is the uh, now
Pennsylvania
I'm
Six
drawing
Five
a blank.
Thousand.
That's up there.
I
That's
remember
right up
your
there.
I remember your review from that when you were like had minute reviews or something like that on the local
Yep,
news, and it was one word. It was you had the music from Pennsylvania 65000. At the very
exactly.
end, you go
Yep,
stinks.
yep.
I tell you, I
Now,
have a penchant for bad sci-fi movies. People look at me
well,
when I'm crazy, so
uh, when I was a kid, I saw a lot of those as kiddie matinee fodder,
hmm
and I have a certain affection for them. Uh, um, Maximum Overdrive. I just had to cheat and look online to remind myself that's the only film Stephen King directed.
yeah.
He said that he was tired of people taking his novels and short stories and ruining them
So he
on
ruined him himself,
screen.
huh?
He did this one all by himself. Yeah, this is about the demonic trucks.
That's right. It was like Transformers on steroids,
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
you mentioned Playboy Hugh Hefner a little bit earlier, how he was a cartoonist and stuff, but you mentioned in your book he really was a trailblazer in his later years. I mean, well, I don't want to say later years, but he saved the Hollywood sign. He
twice.
twice, yeah, twice.
Yes, first when the sign was in desperate need of restoration,
hmm
literally falling apart, uh, and he bought. You could buy a letter. I forgot which letter
Yes,
he bought,
maybe an
but
H, but.
yeah, that would have made sense. Yes, but then years later, the property on which that sign rests, overlooking Hollywood on one side and the other end of this toward the San Fernando Valley. It seems that the city did not own that land, city of Los Angeles. And there was a speculator hovering over it that would have made it impossible to go up there to see the sign, and would have been intrusive and unwelcome on anybody's scorecard. And Hef wrote a check for $900,000
Amazing.
and bought the land. And as a private individual, you know,
Yeah.
not a city agency, not a charitable organization. He just did it because that's how much he cared about it.
And he also, like you say in your book, he also closed down the Playboy clubs who would not allow African American customers in there. And
That's true. And he also featured a lot of black performers on his TV series,
that's right.
early TV series, Playboy's Penthouse and Playboy
Love
After Dark.
love Playboy's
And
Penthouse. Yeah. Mhm.
oh, and that's precious stuff. It's precious footage, and it not only shows them performing, but mingling with the white guests, or
Yes.
white guests mingling with them, depending on how you want to put that. But he was a crusader in his own way, for free speech was crucial because he battled postal authorities for a long time about mailing that magazine, and someone did a documentary about his work in this arena for years and years and years. Now, there's some people who call him a pornographer. I don't believe that. And there are some people who took him to task for objectifying women. And I don't think that's true either, but this is all a matter of opinion.
Exactly. And his magazine, and yes, I'm not going to use the old line, I bought Playboy for the articles.
The articles, yeah.
But when you look at the magazine, you get past the pictures of the women and stuff, there are some incredible writing in the magazine, or at least it used to be.
Well, he published James Baldwin. He published Shel Silverstein. He published one of my favorites, Gene Shepard.
Yeah.
And a wide variety of notable authors and cartoonists.
Oh yeah. And I was going to ask you real quick. Now, you mentioned earlier in the interview health issues. Are you doing okay?
Yeah, I'm sitting here talking to you.
That could have devastating effects. Okay.
Well, if there's an aftershock, then I'll be sure to let you know, so I can lure you into the guilt that comes with any such encounter.
9 years of Catholic school. Good luck. Okay.
I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease 7 years ago, and it's no fun, but medication has really made a difference, and exercise, and I'm getting by. I am slower, no question about that. And
we all
sometimes words get stuck in my mouth, and I'm a little clumsier than I've been a klutz my whole life, but I'm a little clumsier in recent times. But I can still type, and I can still talk, and manage to get around, and so I think I'm doing okay.
Fantastic. Well, Leonard Maltin, it's been a great pleasure talking to you today. The book is Starstruck. It comes out today. I was going to say, I knew it was either today or tomorrow. Yes, comes out today, which is October 12th. Again, thank you for being on the Junot Files.
My pleasure.